Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. Ready to dive into a world of, hidden symbols and all that good stuff? Secret societies.
Always up for a good mystery.
Well, today we're going deep, really deep into a chapter of Western occultism that I think you'll find pretty fascinating. We're going to be uncovering the story of MacGregor Mathers.
Mathers.
Hmm?
A name that echoes through the history of magic.
Exactly, but I bet there's a lot about him that even seasoned occultists might not know. And to really unlock this story, we're going to be using a source that's considered essential for understanding the inner workings of, well, one of the most famous occult groups ever,
Yeah.
the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
You mean the pasted text, right?
Yeah, you got it. That's our decoder ring for this deep dive. Now, even if you're just dipping your toes into the world of esotericism, you've probably bumped into the Golden Dawn in some form or another, even if it's just like a fleeting reference.
It does seem to pop up everywhere these days. Books, movies, even video games.
It's true. It's seeped into popular culture in a big way. But, and here's the thing, the real story of the Golden Dawn and Mather's role in it, way more interesting than any fictional account, trust me.
Oh, I don't doubt that for a second.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin with a figure like MacGregor Mathers?
Well, why don't we start with his name? Born Samuel Liddell Mathers in good old London back in 1854. But later on, he decides to adopt the, well, shall we say, more theatrical MacGregor.
MacGregor, it does have a certain ring to it, doesn't it? Like he's assuming a magical mantle.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, was he drawn to this idea of a hidden lineage? Trying to craft an image, maybe break free from those stuffy Victorian conventions? And speaking of breaking conventions, picture Victorian London, right?
Lol top hats and tight corsets.
Exactly. And here's Mathers, a vegetarian.
Quite a statement in an era when meat was king.
It wasn't just about diet, though. The guy actively campaigned against animal cruelty in a time when that was practically unheard of. He even refused to smoke. Talk about a rebel.
He certainly went against the grain. It speaks volumes about his independent spirit.
He was drawn to the unconventional, even from an early age, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that fascination with what lay beyond the ordinary, it extended to, well, practically every aspect of his life.
You're right, and this is where things get really interesting because you have Mathers with this fascination with, well, the mystical on one hand, and then on the other hand, the military.
An intriguing juxtaposition. On one side, he's poring over ancient grimoires, trying to decipher the secrets of ceremonial magic, and on the other, he's engrossed in military manuals. It's as if he saw a connection between commanding spirits and commanding armies.
You know, it's funny you should say that because you're right. It's like he saw a through line between the two.
And, it's not entirely out of place for the time. The Victorians were obsessed with knowledge, with classifying it, systematizing it, whether it was through scientific exploration or digging through ancient texts.
That's a great point. It's like Mathers embodied that duality perfectly. Now, we can't talk about Mathers without mentioning his equally fascinating wife, Moyna. And she wasn't just any Victorian lady. She was the sister of Henry Bergson, the philosopher.
Oh, wow. Their family dinners must have been something else.
Right. Talk about an intellectual powerhouse. But getting back to Mathers and his occult pursuits, he starts dabbling in Freemasonry, joins the Hengist Lodge, if you want to be specific.
Not just dabbling. He quickly rose through the ranks.
Yes, absolutely right. But Mathers, well, he wasn't one to be tied down to just one secret society, so naturally he ends up crossing paths with the Societas Rosicruciana in Anglia, or SRIA if you want to keep things brief.
The SRIA. Now, there's a group with its own fascinating history.
Tell me about it. It's like Mathers had a knack for finding himself at the heart of these groups that were seeking, well, hidden knowledge, ancient traditions, that sort of thing.
The SRIA, they claimed a lineage going all the way back to, well, you guessed it, medieval Rosicrucianism.
The promise of unlocking some ancient wisdom, it's no wonder Mathers was drawn to them.
It attracted people from all walks of life. Artists, scholars, even a few folks who, like Mathers, were already involved in Freemasonry.
It's like they were all looking for something more, something beyond the everyday.
And the SRIA seemed to offer that.
So, don't leave me hanging.
Well, like many groups with their share of secrets and, let's be honest, big personalities, the SRIA had its fair share of. Let's call them internal disagreements.
So drama followed Mathers wherever he went.
You could say that. It's like he was destined to shake things up, to leave his mark, no matter where he landed. And nowhere is that more evident than in his role in the most legendary occult organization of the time, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
And that, my friends, is a story for part 2 of our deep dive. So, the Golden Dawn, huh? Not just another club for Victorian folks with a bit too much time on their hands, right?
Oh, definitely not. It was tapping into something much deeper, you know? A real hunger for, like, spiritual exploration, a system of knowledge that people believed could unlock something hidden within them. It was potent stuff.
And Mathers, well, he wasn't just content to be a member, was he?
No, not at all. He wanted to shape it, to mold it in his own image.
He eventually takes over, becomes the leader, even moves the headquarters to Paris.
Paris. It adds a whole other dimension, doesn't it? This air of mystique, you know? A secret society steeped in ancient symbols, operating from one of the most romantic cities in the world.
Right, it's like something out of a novel. And the people he drew into the Golden Dawn's orbit, we're talking some serious heavy hitters. Florence Farr, the actress, Yeats, the poet.
Maud Gonne, the revolutionary.
Oh.
Even Arthur Machen, the master of the macabre.
It was quite the eclectic group. So what was it about the Golden Dawn that drew in such a diverse and influential crowd?
It wasn't just about dabbling in magic. It was the structure, the system. You didn't just join. You ascended. Each grade, each level, unlocked deeper teachings, practices that had supposedly been passed down for centuries.
So there was this real sense of progression, of uncovering hidden knowledge, both within yourself and the universe. It almost sounds like an academic pursuit, but with a good dose of ritual and symbolism thrown in.
Exactly. It was that blend of intellectual rigor and spiritual practice that made it so compelling. But of course, whenever you have a group that shrouds itself in secrecy, promises access to power, well, conflicts are bound to arise.
And boy, did they ever. Enter Aleister Crowley. Now, there's a name that sends shivers down the spine.
The self-proclaimed wickedest man in the world. A figure of immense talent and, shall we say, a certain proclivity for stirring things up.
An understatement if there ever was one. But what's his role in all of this? How does he figure into the Golden Dawn saga?
Crowley's arrival was a turning point, you could say. His personality, already larger than life, it clashed with the established order.
You can't exactly imagine him as someone who played by the rules, could you?
No, not really. But Mathers, he saw something in Crowley, some untapped potential. He even initiated him directly, despite some pushback from members in London.
That must have ruffled some feathers.
Oh, you bet it did. It heightened the tensions that were already simmering beneath the surface.
It's like this pressure cooker of personalities, philosophies, all drawn to this power, this knowledge that the Golden Dawn seemed to offer. But with such different interpretations of what it all meant, something had to give, right?
Absolutely. And it didn't take long for things to reach a boiling point. Some members of the London Temple, they wanted to bypass Mathers altogether. They sought a direct connection with, well, entities known as the Secret Chiefs.
Secret Chiefs. Now, that sounds cryptic, even for the Golden Dawn. Who were these mysterious figures?
They were believed to be ascended masters, guiding the order from behind the scenes. The ultimate source of its teachings, its power, at least according to those who believed in their existence.
So Mathers is facing a rebellion on his hands. Members questioning his authority, seeking to go over his head to these, secret chiefs. What does he do? Does he confront it head on? So Mathers is in a tough spot, rebellion brewing, people questioning his every move. How does he handle this?
Well, Mathers, he was never one to back down from a challenge, was he?
Not exactly known for his diplomacy.
He digs in, refuses to even acknowledge the London Temple's claims, and, well, he ends up excommunicating them.
Excommunicated? Talk about a power move.
It was a bold move, a desperate move, some might say.
And it backfires, right? I mean, that's the end of the Golden Dawn as they knew it.
Pretty much. This is the big schism. The Golden Dawn fractures into rival factions. All that work, all that building, it crumbles because of these power struggles.
Almost Shakespearean, isn't it?
It really is. But here's the thing. Mathers, even after all that, even after this very public falling out, he doesn't give up on his own vision.
So the Golden Dawn might be shattered, but he keeps going.
Oh, absolutely. He continues to teach, to write, developing his own system, his own branch of the order, if you will. Alpha et Omega, he called it.
Alpha et Omega, the beginning and the end. It sounds like he still saw himself as, the one true heir to the Golden Dawn's legacy.
You could say that. But it wasn't just about holding on to the past. It was about forging his own path. And his influence didn't end with the Golden Dawn. Not by a long shot.
Really? But how? I mean, if the Golden Dawn fractured, wouldn't that kind of diminish his impact?
You might think so, but think about it. His translations of all those ancient magical texts, They were groundbreaking.
Right, he made those texts accessible to a wider audience.
Exactly, and they're still studied today, still considered essential reading for anyone interested in Western occultism.
So he's not just a practitioner, he's a scholar, a translator who opened up this whole world of hidden knowledge.
Precisely. He built bridges between the ancient and the modern.
It makes you wonder, though, would his work have had the same impact if it weren't for the drama, the controversy, if the Golden Dawn had never splintered?
Who can say for sure? But it definitely adds another layer to his story, doesn't it?
Speaking of layers and mysteries, Mather's own death, it's shrouded in a bit of intrigue, isn't it?
It is, rather fittingly, don't you think? A man who navigated the hidden realms of magic. He exits the world with more questions than answers.
1918, right, during that awful influenza pandemic.
That's right. But the exact circumstances, they remain a bit murky. Some whisper of curses, of occult dabblings gone awry.
Right, because a simple pandemic just wouldn't be dramatic enough for MacGregor Mathers, right?
It does add to the legend, doesn't it? But whether it was a mundane illness or something more esoteric, it's a reminder that even those who claim to command the forces of the universe are still subject to its whims.
I guess that's a good lesson for all of us. Well, that was a wild ride. From Victorian London to the heights of the Golden Dawn and into the, well, shadowy world of secret societies, magical texts, and a healthy dose of intrigue.
Mather's story, it's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge, especially when it comes to the occult, it's rarely straightforward. There are always twists and turns, unexpected consequences.
And sometimes those unexpected paths lead to discoveries we never could have imagined. So if there's one thing we hope you take away from today's deep dive, it's this. Keep exploring. Keep asking questions.
And don't be afraid to delve into the shadows, because you never know what you might find hidden there.
Until next time, happy exploring.